Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of That's My Opinion. Got a lot of things going on these days with some of the happenings here around Lincoln County. But I thought would probably be interesting to talk about today. Um, some of the things is kind of oh makes me wonder about some things here in the county. I don't know how many of you have seen the sign that's up on Highway 61 referencing um, that President Trump is responsible for the closing of the Silex Healthcare Center. That's not true. You can find out what really happened, what the cause was, if you just do a little research on your own. Everything's available online. But the truth of the matter is, oh, and by the way, it's a good thing to note that the Democratic Party, the DNC, is responsible for putting that billboard up on the highway. Um, the truth of the matter is the Silex Nursing Center has been having financial problems for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, when they filed for bankruptcy was in 2024, and if you remember, Sleepy Joe Biden was president at that time and had been president for almost 4 years. So um, I don't know who's really responsible, but it didn't have anything to do with Donald Trump. I know that the Silex Nursing Center was fined by the federal government, I think once or twice, for some violations on their um, billing process, I believe it was. But anyway, they had a track record of losing payment from the social services and losing it from I think it was Blue Cross or whoever. But anyway, uh, Trump had nothing to do with it. So looks like maybe the Democrat National Convention's trying to mislead us just a little bit. Say it ain't so. Well, you know, you got to figure with everything else that they've been saying that it probably is so. They're probably trying to mislead us. You got to keep an eye on those people. Do your research, find out exactly what's going on. Don't take their word for anything. And speaking of that, there's been some things come to my attention um, recently, especially this op-ed page in the Lincoln County Journal. Um, it looks like, well, not only the Lincoln County Journal, but a wannabe reporter, Sonny Bratton or something, um, wrote the same article. As a matter of fact, it looked pretty close to being word for word. Um, but anyway, the insinuation on the op-ed page in the Lincoln County Journal was that the board couldn't get along. The board were not working together. That's entirely false. That couldn't be any farther from the truth. Um, the board has, since this new board's been elected, has made more changes than any board in the last 10, 12 years. Um, so before passing judgment on them and saying that they're not working together, you need to find out the truth. Since this board was elected, um, and the city administrator has come on board, which they ended up voting on and getting him into office. Um, they stopped the irregular budgets that the city was running with all these years since the current mayor's been in office. They no longer are going to do a flat budget, which means they're not going to um, figure that the city is going to um, run run deficit funding. Um, but they've decided to go with a normal budget. They're going to start planning the budget in advance, probably 9 months in advance, like the state prescribes. The current city administrator is uh, did participate in making budget for fiscal year 26, so that we weren't completely and totally behind the eight ball again. He's uh, got in and refigured the budget and getting the aldermen involved, getting the department heads involved. Whereas before, I'm not sure who was doing the budget other than Mayor Sconce was forcing the flat budget situation. But anyway, getting back to the board of aldermen getting along. These people have been working together since day one. They've been talking back and forth on the phone. They've been talking back and forth at board meetings. Um, they are in contact with each other constantly, working on different projects. The controversy comes in when the mayor gets involved. If you do your research and do your history, ever since he became an alderman, there's been dissension in the board. Um, there was when Mayor Cross was actually the mayor, and it continued on after Mayor Cross appointed Mayor Sconce to that position. And there was controversy when Mayor Cross resigned. I know I heard the rumor that he was sick, but I think actually he was involved in an apartment complex project um, as a silent partner, and that's the reason for his resignation. I can't tell that for sure, but that's what I was told by an alderman who was sitting on the board at the time, that Mayor Cross resigned. So it would appear that when Mayor Sconce was appointed to that office, the dissension continued. Um, if you go back and review past city board meeting minutes and agendas, you can see what would cause a dissension. Um, I guess close to recently, I guess it was um, the mayor asked for and got total control over Cherry Street. Well, if you go back, I believe it's in the consent agenda that he asked for that. Now, shame on the alderman for not catching it, but things like that shouldn't be in the consent agenda. And he got control of the Cherry Street project, and we all see how that turned out. That was a 9 month project that turned into a 2 year debacle. Yeah, it was disastrous. It was despicable the way things turned out. And after the Cherry Street project was finished, mayor said that Julie Rogers of the Boonslick Area Council was wanted a public hearing on the um, Cherry Street project. So they had one after the thing was said to be complete. Well, when he started taking heat at that particular meeting, um, he tried to blame the Board of Aldermen for all the screw ups. Well, I know for a fact that the Board of Aldermen didn't know anything about the roller coaster ride there at Front Street and Cherry Street. That was personally approved by Mayor Sconce, even after one of the aldermen called him and told him they needed to look at it. They needed to reevaluate that situation. Mayor Sconce contacted the architect. The architect said it was good. The people who designed that mess, and Mayor Sconce told them to pour it anyway. Excuse me. It was serious enough that the developer, the Lamke Construction, from what I was told by one of the aldermen that was on scene that day, that Lamke refused to complete the project unless the mayor signed off on them being liable for any problems that intersection would cause. And of course, the intersection was poured, was completed. It was told to the city it was completed. And then when the mayor had his public hearing, there was a large outcry about that mess at Front Street and Cherry Street. And the mayor said, well, the board could have stopped it at any time. Well, maybe they could, maybe they couldn't. They inadvertently gave him control of the whole project, and to try and deflect the blame for that mess to the Board of Aldermen was another just downright despicable thing for him to do. But he did it. I mean, and all these board meetings and videos, you can look it up here on the YouTube channel, Troy News and Views, and you can find out what he said, exactly what he said. It's on tape, it's on videotape, so there's no disputing what he did. But another example of him causing dissension, state statute says that the mayor is supposed to communicate with the board, tell them what's going on in the city, tell them, what's happening. Very little communication between the mayor and the Board of Aldermen has ever gone on. They had a city crew, I think this has been 2 years ago, had a paving machine loaded on the back of a lowboy trailer. They never bothered to strap it down. And they made the corner down here at Excalibur going a little faster than they should have been. And just right before they got there, I believe came a little skiff of rain, and they went around that corner, and this paving machine slid off this lowboy trailer and landed in the front yard of the people that live on the southeast corner of Excalibur. In there it laid. Well, I called one of the aldermen at the time and said, what's the deal? Why wasn't this paving machine fastened down on the lowboy trailer? They didn't know what I was talking about. That should have been something that the alderman should have known about, because ultimately, according to the state, when push comes to shove, the aldermen are responsible for everything that happens in this community. Well, if they don't know to correct it. They don't know to get involved and possibly discipline the people that didn't strap down the paving machine. But that's another example of the mayor not informing the Board of Aldermen as to what's going on. And just recently, the Cannon Company asked, they are going to build a subdivision called Whiskey Creek. And that should have come before the board, and it did come before the board, but only because one of the aldermen caught it when it was placed in the consent agenda. It shouldn't have been in the consent agenda, especially when you consider that they went to the planning and zoning to get it approved. And I believe that was one particular project that planning and zoning couldn't get a quorum. So it went to the board without a planning and zoning approval. Well, it came to the board, and Cannon Companies met all the requirements. They followed all of the city programs, all the city guidelines, all the city regulations. And the concern was that the way the construction around Buchanan Creek has been allowed to just run amok and, cause flooding on Buchanan Creek, all the runoff and everything. When you take away houses and you take away grass and you put down concrete and all that on Buchanan Creek, the water's going to get higher. I mean, you're taking away the ability for the earth to absorb rainwater and that kind of thing, and the water's got to go somewhere. So where does it go? It goes into the creek. The creek rises, people's homes start to flood. You've got homes all up and down Buchanan Creek that are taking on water. You've got homes in Oak Forest, Cottonwood, um, the subdivision where one of the aldermen live, um, is taking on water, and houses are flooding, and people are suffering some losses. And who's to blame for that? I'm going to have to say the city of Troy is to blame for it because they did nothing to stop it. They did nothing to change it. That's some of the things that this current board has been working on. They halted the Cannon Company from building that Whiskey Creek subdivision until they had a chance to figure out where all of the water was coming from down Buchanan Creek. So they asked for a runoff study, wanted a second engineer to take a look at it. That never happened. I think the mayor and city administrator were charged with getting a second engineer in here to get that study done. And as of today, it still hasn't happened. But the Cannon companies had followed all of the rules and all the regulations that were currently on the books. So it wouldn't be fair to not give them a permit. So the Cannon companies was asked to do what they could to prevent additional runoff into Buchanan Creek. So the Cannon companies went in and they uh, expanded the retention ponds, and they went above and beyond what they had to do to help prevent the runoff into Buchanan Creek. And as I understand it, they were able to lower the expected runoff from that subdivision by, I think, by half, I believe. But anyway, the mayor never talked to the board about any of those problems. Um, and that right there, people that didn't know what was going on or doesn't know what's going on, they did not take into consideration when they said that the board was causing problems. They're not causing problems. They're doing what they were elected to do. They're looking out for the city. And right now they're in a process of trying to revisit the planning and zoning codes and restrictions to make it safer, make these contractors responsible for putting in proper streets, for putting in retention ponds, and that kind of thing. So there's other things that this board has done that I know that I guess people aren't paying attention, or they're not aware of some of the things, but they've put together a 5-year plan for the city. They've taken care of the budget problem that we've had, in spite of what uh, Mayor Sconce and Alderman Leifert from last administration kept saying. We don't have deficit spending. We're on the verge, but they've taken steps along with the city administrator to fix that problem. They're no longer just going to dump everything into the general revenue fund. It's going to be budgeted the way it should be budgeted. It's going to be budgeted to each department the way it is. That way, there's no excuses. We know where our money's going. We know who's spending it and why. Currently, not currently, but before they put together this new budget and spending plan, there was no way to tell who was spending what, especially when they overspent their budget because it was never budgeted correctly. Yeah, and just to let you all know, we're going to start live streaming all the board meetings. We're going to allow for open debate and uh, asking questions while that live stream is going on. So if you want to be a part of it and you can't attend the board meeting, you'll be able to watch it and ask questions as the live stream is going on. So all that's in the works. We're working on it, trying to get things situated to where everybody knows what's going on in the city of Troy. I mean, currently, you have to go on the face or the YouTube channel or the Facebook page to see a board meeting. Hopefully, we can get it going well enough that everybody can watch it online. So, anyway, I just wanted to do a live broadcast now to see how it's going to go, what I need to change, and to make sure that we're going to do what needs to be done so that the citizens of Troy can actively participate in their city management. It's no longer going to be everything's a secret. It's no longer going to be a hush hush, quiet nonsense where only the real estate people and the contractors know what's going on. So, uh, if you want to make a comment or whatever, feel free. I'm always open. If you want to put something on the channel, shoot me a video. It'll go on there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys will get involved in your city because the only way to make things work and make things change is to get involved. Let your city people know, your city alderman, your city mayor, your city administrator know how you feel. Ask them questions. Let them know what you want and what you don't want. But setting on the sidelines and assuming that the Board of Aldermen is not doing anything is not helping. So there's a lot more going on in our city than meets the eye. And the aldermen have been working hard to try and get things straightened out. But you can't straighten out 50 years of bad management in 6 months. See you next time. Have a good day.